what are some of the top 10 frequently asked questions when we're talking about a Scrum interview, or most often in the Agile space? And not only in the Agile space, even if you're looking for BA position, you're looking for project management position and other program management position, the questions are kind of similar. And I guess you already would have known or even guess what's going to be that first question that you always going to ask, right? Not only work everywhere you meet. Oh, I want to know more about you. What's your name? Tell me about yourself. Now, how do we respond to tell me about yourself in a work situation, more specifically in a Scrum Master position? All right. This question, I recommend you categorize it into three different components, right? So, tell me about yourself, number one. Or obviously, you need to talk about your name and a bit of your background. Your name and your background. Your background in, like, okay, my name is Francis, and my background is in business development, project management, and IT. That's my background, right? So when they say tell me about yourself, that's what I mean. Background doesn't I don't mean like, oh, I'm Francis, I come from Cameroon, I live in Dallas, Texas, and no. I say background, you need to stay professional. All right. Now the second component of tell me about yourself, you want to talk about your transition. We all know that when we're talking about Scrum Master is not something that you go learn in the university and you have a degree in as a Scrum Master and you start practicing it. We are aware that Scrum it's a leadership role that people are stepping into. So most often, the value you bring on board is going to be more on how did you make the transition. They want to see that what happened that you decided, especially for companies that are looking forward to bring you in as a full time. They want to see a passion. They don't just want to hire someone that knows how to work. They want to look at passion. There's so many things that are being considered in an interview, not just the way you know how to answer questions. Some people say, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. I've gone through several interview sessions. You might be answering all the questions right, but then when they look at your leadership capability, they're not just right. Right. For instance, the way you compose in the camera, if I'm talking and I'm like this, if I'm talking and I'm not focusing on the camera, all the stuff, it shows lack of confidence in what I'm saying. So it's not just the way you respond, it's not just the way it's not just your answer, it's also the way you answer. Also, another most important thing you should consider is also the way you compose your word, right? Like, don't use like you're trying to guess everywhere. You can use that most often when you giving a long speech, or which is kind of not really what you're used to doing. That you might use that, and sometimes you also kind of hear me say when I'm kind of transition. But you need to limit that. You need to limit that. Learn how to kind of just flow, right? You don't want to say one sentence and in the middle of one sentence you kind of say pause. You pause and use this word like about 5 6 7 times. So you try to avoid that. That's it. So I said the first part of tell me about yourself is about this is my name and this is my background. My name is Francis. I have about 15 years of experience getting across business development, project development, and the IT. Now, the second part is about your transition. My interest in Agile, and most specifically in the Scrum framework, began when I was working on a project that kind of collaborated with about 6 different countries. And the goal, excuse me, and the goal of this project was to kind of build an integration that can help individuals across 6 countries to be more conscious on sustainable food consumption pattern. So this application actually collected data that could help us to evaluate how people, what are the eating and consumption habit of people, and what actually is motivating them to to specifically choose those patterns and how we can aggregate that for decision making. And in today's, we kind of saw that it was a bit difficult kind of collaborating across different countries, and we're evaluating what are some of the possible ways in which we could implement for a switch transition. And we realized that, oh, agile was one of the way, and that's why the team decided to adopt some agile practices, especially when we're dealing with co-located team. And then it piqued my interest to really learn in detail what agile was. I got certified and I picked my first position as a Scrum Master with P&T Company. Okay, so that's the second part. I just actually kind of narrated this because I wanted you not just to know about the second part, but what you can say. This is where a lot of people are interested in, because they want to see, this gives them that you understand what Scrum is all about and you understand the difference between Scrum and other framework. So pay attention on your transition story. So the first part is your name, your background. The second part is your transition story. Then the third part is about your job as a Scrum Master. If you have about, let's say, three different positions as a Scrum Master, you can focus to say, okay, I've worked as a Scrum Master with different things, but in my most recent project, I'm working with a team of developer, or I'm working as a Scrum Master for two different teams. One of them is a portal team, another is a mobile team. The portal team, we are focusing on building a portal or developing a web portal where clients, enterprise, and all the people that are interested can get into that space, and they can be able to find maybe the best top leadership books that they want to read, from legends and from success story. And not only find that, they can also be able to find opportunity to connect directly to these leaders, and then kind of have a one-on-one conversation. So it's more of a leadership portal that is meant to connect legendary leaders and leaders that want to be with them. So that's a portal that you can build, right? I just made this up, but that's the portal that you can build. Because imagine people like John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, and all those legend leaders and top speakers. They have a platform, and then you have people that want to meet them, and they can go into that platform, and they could be able to get some of the books and then book a session with them, because they are in that platform. That's like a priority, a portal that can give them access to that. Why do I bring out that? That's a practical project that can be done. These people, they can put in the money to sponsor a Scrum team that can build that project. Many banks also, or many companies, what they're doing, they're building portals. They're building portals that can facilitate their business. Most of the Scrum teams, you're going to be working on that data migration, or getting your product from the web to mobile, or just kind of getting a team that can engineer data in such a way that the data can be more effective and more useful, right? So that's tell me about yourself. The first component of tell me about yourself, we are going to learn about, this is my name and this is my background. The second component of tell me about yourself is going to be on your transition story. And the third component of tell me about yourself is going to be about the project you're working on. And then you close by saying that why you're in the job market. Is your project ending? Has your project ended prematurely because they ran out of budget? Is your organization laying out people? You don't want to say that your organization is laying out people. Why are you the first person to lay? Okay, even if it's obvious, right? You don't want to say that. You will always want to tell them that, okay, my contract with the organization is ending. You don't need to go into details on why your contract is ending. If you didn't ask why your contract is ending, like, okay, the phase in which you were hired, is, especially if you're working as a contract worker, is ending, and that's why you're in the market for another opportunity. All right. That is one question out of the 10, and it took a lot of time. All right, so I'm going to kind of just list out the other questions, and I'm going to subsequently answer them for the rest of the week. I'll be talking about some of these frequent asked questions. So the next is going to be tell me about your last project, which I somehow integrated in answering this. But tomorrow I'm gonna do also a very detailed video, break down all the different components on what you should consider when they say, tell me about your last project. I also talk about all the different projects that you can, all the different projects that a Scrum Master can work on. When you work as a Scrum Master, it's not just like, oh, work as a Scrum Master. There are teams, there are different teams you can work with, especially if you're working in a more like a safe environment. The different teams and the different teams are focusing on different functionality. Is it the portal? Is it the mobile? Is it the web application? Is it data engineering? So you need to kind of get to that understanding. And then we'll also talk about effective sprint planning. It's also one of the questions that is frequently asked because it's very important. If you can ask, if you can know how to effectively plan during sprint planning or iteration planning, then there is definitely no so much value bringing you into a team. Right now, we talk about performance, how to evaluate performance. We go into details. We learn about how to evaluate performance. These are the top questions, frequent asked questions that you're going to get them through most of the interviews. So if you've not been paying attention to these questions, go ahead and start learning more about them. We're also going to learn on how to evaluate performance. I just said that. How to handle conflicts at team level and at leadership level. We're also going to address that. We're also going to learn how to build a performing team. How to build a performing team is very important. What are some of the things if you get into a team and the team is not effective? What are some of the steps you can take to help that team to be effective? We're going to talk about that. How would you coach leaders on Agile? This is also one aspect to pay attention on. The way you communicate it, the way you give it out is very important. Some people just say, oh, I was helping leadership, I was coaching them. And many people feel like coaching is about me taking you to a space and say, okay, sit down here, let me coach you. No, coaching is more about action. It's more about some of the steps you want to push your team to do. So we're going to look into what is coaching and what are some of the way you can coach leadership and coach your team without feeling like, I'm a coach. Okay, perfect. Then we're also going to talk about effective retrospective. Effective retrospective, which is about learning from performance, learning from every aspect that you've been doing. And then we'll go ahead and talk about implementing learning and feedback. Implementing learning and feedback is also more of retro. But the reason I want to treat implementing learning and feedback as a separate entity is because when I'm treating that question, I'm going to talk about how, first of all, you document that feedback is beyond the retro, how you encourage your team to do documentation, what are the different platforms you do documentation, how do you apply those learning and feedback into the team, into the organization to improve that. And then also going to talk about collaboration with the PO, understanding your dealing on how you can collaborate with the PO to effectively kind of help your team progress is very, very important. So these are the things I'm going to be dealing with this week. I'll try as much as possible to cover all of them this week. So don't miss it out and then invite someone to be part of this. I'm going to announce probably tomorrow the day that I'll be coming live so that you can put it on your schedule. I will also make sure that I kind of schedule it on the side. Put on your schedule. Let's have a conversation. I want to answer your questions. Now, if you also have questions, what I'm also going to do is that I'll go through the channel and pick out some of the questions that have been asked and I've not answered them. And on that day, I'm just going to have a conversation and we'll go through all of these questions together. All right. That was it for today. Have a great week. For people that want to get serious about their agile journey, reach out and I will be available to help you and to coach you through the journey. I'll see you tomorrow in the next video.